You're watching the number one podcast in the YouTube wrestling community, and I'm your host, Jean Paul Laek, and this is Rope Break. So, family, here it is, the start of the new season for wrestling, however you want to phrase it, the Raw after WrestleMania. It's usually always an eventful show. This one, it was eventful, but was it eventful in the way we wanted it to be? Was there the big returns? How was it? We're going to get into it all. We're going to cover it. But if you haven't already, before you watch this, go back and, watch our WrestleMania Night 1, Night 2 review. Also check out our thoughts on the monumental episode of the Broken Skull Sessions with AEW star, former WWE star, Chris Jericho. So check all that stuff out. And also we want to thank, all you guys for your comments, interaction, support, everything over this busy past WrestleMania week. It keeps us going. So, we're just going to keep on going like we always do. But we always want to shout out the family because we really do appreciate it. But, this Raw, I can't say that it was awful, but I also can't say that it was good. Got some build for Backlash already, 5 weeks, till we get that show. One of the first major things I want to bring up is new announced team. Corey Graves was on Raw, and no Tom Phillips, no Samoa Joe. And it was Adnan. I think it was, what was the name? Hold on, give me 1 second. I have it pulled up here. It is Adnan Virk is his name. So, he was from ESPN. I believe they said basketball or something. He wasn't bad. He has a good sound to his voice. I think once he gets a little bit more familiarized with the product and everything, I think he'll be a nice addition to the team. And I feel they just have Corey Graves right there to kind of be the lead senior guy to kind of help him along, in case there's anything he needs help with. So, so hopefully that means a return to the ring for Samoa Joe. But, then we, to get into Raw, it opens up. We see a video package. Bobby Lashley, he arrives at the arena earlier with MVP. Lashley's high-fiving people, signing autographs and stuff. Excuse me. Matt Riddle rolls up and he's like, I watched Lashley's match. And he's like, I'd like to have a match against you. Lashley refuses, saying he's only here to address the WWE universe. And he went to war with Drew McIntyre last night. So he's not going to wrestle somebody lesser than, Drew, as in Matt Riddle. And then he's like, and someone who gets beaten by Sheamus. He's like, I beat Sheamus and, you couldn't even beat him. So Riddle quotes Lashley from a few weeks ago where he said that, he could beat anyone who he wanted it. And Riddle keeps talking, which did make sense because Riddle was saying, oh, you said if anybody, in the locker room, I'll give them an opportunity. Yeah, that was if they took out Drew. So that's like the thing Riddle wasn't mentioning. So this whole promo and this whole skit to me was shitty. It was just to get Riddle a match with Bobby Lashley. That was the whole point of this. He beats him down, hits him with the scooter and everything. So he's like, if you want to have this match, he's like, I'll pretty much I'll kick your ass and I'll prove it to you kind of deal. So then we get this. So then we go live from the Thunderdome, which looks a little bit different. And then out comes Bobby Lashley with MVP. And like I said, the new announced team. And then we see we're going to get a rematch. That's the big thing. The announced team told us before this first match, we're going to see a WrestleMania rematch, Asuka and Rhea Ripley. And then Lashley and MVP, they come out to the ring. He's heading to the ring. As he's coming to the ring, scooting around ringside, Lashley hops out of the ring and he just starts beating down Riddle before this match. Really, he hits him with the scooter, throws him around, all this stuff, like really beats him down before the match even begins. Then eventually they gets him in the ring. They ring the bell and it's like, oh, okay. Like they're even going to have this match, like commentary was saying. But this actually wasn't bad. I'm thinking, oh, like, are they still punishing Riddle? Like, what's going on here? Lashley was just dominating this guy, kicking his ass. But eventually, Riddle, he starts to make a comeback because Lashley, he gives MVP high five, then suplexes Riddle again, crushes his face with a fist. Riddle then starts firing back again. Lashley drops him with a lariat. Then Lashley attempts a flapjack, but Riddle counters and unloads with some big kicks. Then the ripcord knee strike. He manages to drop Lashley. He goes up top for the Broton, or floating bro, whatever he calls it. Lashley avoids it, but then grabs him in the hurt lock, and eventually he taps out. So, Riddle had that little bit of comeback at the end. Was it enough? Because Lashley wins in a pretty dominant performance for our WWE champion. So good match for him. This was just saying, hey, Lashley's our champ, and he's still badass. You know, he beat a former United States champion pretty easily. But I would say this, it was like an elongated squash because Riddle had that little bit of offense fired back at the end. But Riddle's direction still, I would say, seems pretty lost. So then we see replays of Rhea Ripley versus Asuka last night. The new Raw Women's Champion Rhea Ripley's interview backstage. Kevin Patrick congratulates Rhea and asks her how she feels about defending less than 24 hours later. Rhea says it's all about confidence. Her confidence allowed her to walk out and challenge Asuka for a match at WrestleMania. It allowed her to go and beat Asuka. And Rhea says the WWE Universe are about to see a brutal new order in the women's division. Tonight, she will prove she's more than ready for Asuka again. So good promo by Rhea, kind of heelish, kind of not. I feel like Rhea doesn't know what she wants to be. WWE doesn't know what they want her to be. They just made her a heel for the match at WrestleMania. But, you know, with what we see later on, you know, I really don't know. Then we see Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. They're already in the ring. And I'm like, why are these guys in the ring? What's going on here? You know, they don't even get an entrance. Then the main entrance we see, you know, lights go black. We hear the dun, dun, dun. Viking Raiders, they're back. So that's cool for them. You know, they're a legit team. Unfortunately, the last thing I remember of them is the anything you can do, I can do better challenge with the Street Profits. So, of course, you know, you have the bad taste in your mouth. You know, you want to get that out of there. And this win in this match, I think, did a good job, you know, to get that taste out of our mouths because they look good. It was no nonsense. And unfortunately, you know, the former members of the Hurt Business, Shelton Benjamin, Cedric Alexander, I wouldn't say this was a job match, thankfully. You know, they looked pretty good in this as well. This was a very even match. But at the end, of course, you know, the returning Viking Raiders, they're going to win this thing because tags are made to Ivar and Shelton. And the big man unloads. Ivar whips Shelton into the ropes. He hits a shoulder tackles and then the sidewalk slam followed by a crossbody. Shelton whips Ivar to the corner and runs at him, but the Raider hits a seated senton. Shelton then forces Ivar to the corner and tags Alexander. They look for a double clothesline, but Ivar cartwheels through them and then tags Eric. Eric is thrown into Shelton. Ivar is thrown into Shelton by Eric, and then they hit the Viking Experience for the win. So good win here. Hopefully you still do something with Cedric and Shelton because I think, you know, they have way too much talent to just make them jobbers or 24/7 guys, but a good win for the Viking Raiders. You know, that's a babyface team. Build them up. I always say you got to start building up babyface teams to go against your heel tag team champions. So then we see Kevin Patrick. He stops Asuka backstage and asks her about the rematch tonight. Asuka says Rhea brought the fire last night and her losing to Rhea was a nightmare, but tonight she's ready and she will once again be Raw Women's Champion. That match is up next. She was screaming Japanese and stuff. So good emotion here. It wasn't too much of the dancing. You know, it was a lot of fire, a lot of emotion. So I'm all for it. Then we go to commercial break and we come back. Charlotte Flair, she comes out to the ring. She's not wearing ring gear or anything, you know, just like dressed nice. And she gets in the ring and she says normally she'd be smiling tonight, but last night was WrestleMania and she wasn't there. She wasn't welcome. She knows what all the people are saying. She's already been on 5 WrestleMania. She should just shut up, but she's a franchise player. She says it wasn't her fault that Asuka needed a tag team partner. It wasn't her fault that her dad appeared acting like a jackass. It wasn't her fault Lacey Evans got pregnant. She did all she could, even challenging Asuka to a match. Asuka wouldn't even respond. And she said then the opportunist, Rhea Ripley, stepped in, challenged Asuka. Asuka accepted. A new champion was crowned. A new star was born. But don't think for a second Rhea was the only one cheering that she wasn't at WrestleMania. She said the entire women's locker room was loving that Charlotte wasn't there. And then Charlotte says that Rhea is the biggest snake of the lot, and even Asuka was able to talk her way into a rematch tonight. Well, Karma is a bitch, and she is that bitch. Charlotte names all the women on the WrestleMania, and she says not one of them compares to her. And for the first time since she signed with WWE, she watched WrestleMania from her house, and she realized she isn't stealing opportunities. She creates them. She won't apologize for being the best, for being that damn good. She refuses to be humble anymore because she changed this industry and nobody gives her respect. She tells the fans to enjoy the title match that she should have been in, and then she drops the microphone. So pretty good promo by Charlotte. A little long. You could have cut some of it out, but it got the point across. I think this turns her heel, which is what we want to see. We want to see Charlotte as heel. She's not, you know, none of her promos are amazing, but at least she's more believable as a heel. So, my prediction, especially with what we saw at the end of this match, is a triple threat at a payback. Or backlash, excuse me. So, that's what I think we're going to see. And then we get the match, Rhea Ripley champion versus Asuka. And this was pretty good. If this would have actually been a full match and, didn't end the way I predicted it, you can check the text from Juan, but I pretty much said Charlotte's going to come out, cause a DQ. That's essentially what happened. If this would have been a full match, I think this actually almost would have been better than their match at WrestleMania because this was pretty even. Every time Rhea would get big offense and she couldn't put Asuka away, Rhea was getting frustrated. Like they said, is this the pressures of the new champ? She can't put Asuka away. Asuka keeps fighting, and the way this was going, it was actually setting up that Asuka, look, she had the momentum when this thing ended. Because we'll skip here to the end. Ripley climbs to her feet with Asuka pulling at her face, and then she runs her into the buckles. Rhea slams Asuka face first with an electric chair slam, and dropping covers her for a near fall. Like I said, Ripley, she's arguing with the ref. She's getting real pissed off. Ripley goes after and attempts a suplex, but Asuka shoves her back into the post, then hits a DDT on the apron. Both women split up or spill to the floor, and then that's when Charlotte runs out and she shoves them both into the steel steps, beating them down. She kicks Rhea into the apron or the apron. She kicks her head into that, all this stuff. So the ref's ringing the bell. Like I said, there's a beat down. She slams her into the barricade, all this stuff. And, she pretty much mocks Rhea and Asuka as they lay there, all beat down. So to me, this is setting up a triple threat. Is Asuka going to be the one to eat the pin? Maybe Asuka steals the title back, and then we just see a feud between Rhea and Charlotte without the belt. That's what I would like. But I could easily see them putting the belt maybe on Charlotte, and then we get maybe a Becky-Charlotte match again, because Becky's got to come back soon. You can't keep this woman off TV forever. They say she's ready to come back. She's good. You're not going to keep her off TV forever because Becky's ratings, especially because we haven't seen her in a long time. So then we see Miz and Morrison. They're walking backstage, and Maurice appears. Miz kisses her and reminds Morrison that she is their guest on Miz TV. Morrison's kind of confused. He's kind of, I don't know if this is the breakup from them, but it seemed kind of like weird. Not like weird, but he was just like, oh, okay. Like he's kind of out of the loop. Like, him and Miz are cool. But then when Maurice is there, it's like, oh, dude, like, I'm with my girl. Don't talk to me. So it seemed kind of like that. Then we go to commercial break. We see Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax are watching a video of Mandy Rose falling during the WrestleMania entrance, and they laugh and they keep rewinding it, keep laughing and stuff. So Mandy walks up to them and she asks if they're done. Shayna just like disappears. She just walks off and, never to be seen again. So she leaves, and, Mandy asks, she's like, oh, is that funny? And Mandy tells Nia it was pretty funny, and she can laugh at herself. It's especially funny when you don't see it coming. And then she just kind of looks. Nia's looking at her like, well, what the hell is this bitch talking about? Boom, Dana Brooke, she slaps, punches Nia in the face. By the time Nia turns around, Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose are on her. They're beating her up. They slam her into a post, and they just walk off. So, it was actually a pretty good and convincing beatdown. It looked like she really clocked her. So, this was obviously setting up a match for later on. And then we see Alexa Bliss in her playground. She says, this is like what are they called? Alexa Bliss's playground. So this was supposed to be, we were getting this and a Firefly Funhouse segment. So this one came first. And she says that WrestleMania was really fun, but maybe people are wondering why she did what she did. Well, Alexa tells a story about how she was a lost little girl until the darkness found her, nurtured her, and taught her everything it knew. But then the darkness went away. That's when the little girl realized she never needed the darkness to begin with. She could do everything on her own. The darkness was standing in her way. Why else would she use what she was taught to destroy the darkness? She says it's true what they say. The female of the species is always the deadliest. Along the way, she unlocked something truly evil, and she introduced her new friend, Lily, a creepy doll. Alexa says her fun is just getting started. So, did Alexa she said she didn't need the evilness, but maybe the evilness became one with her. So now her and the Fiend seem kind of split, especially what we saw in the Firefly Funhouse segment. I don't like this. I don't like this whole, you build them up and then that's it. Because this doesn't do anything for the Fiend. This isn't really going to do anything for Alexa because nobody wants to see her with the belt. People liked her in this role because she was still featured on TV. She's a better actress than a wrestler. And, now she's going to be in a singles run, or at least by herself. So I don't really like it. I don't even know if she's still going to be involved with the Fiend. We're just going to have to wait and see. But for right now, and Lily, the doll definitely looks creepy. So they nailed that. But, I guess we just got to wait and see what they do with this. So then Miz and Morrison and Maurice, they come into the ring. Maurice will be the guest for Miz TV. So then we welcome back to the must-see talk show of WWE history, Miz TV. And Miz says that WrestleMania has come and gone. History was made. In spite of everything that happened, it was still the most talked about, he is still the most talked about entertainer in all of entertainment. It says everyone wants to know what his gorgeous wife is doing on Miz TV, and it's clear Morrison doesn't know either. She's there because right after Raw is the season 2 premiere of their show. Morrison congratulates them and says maybe the two of them should have a spinoff. Miz reminds him that he is in tonight's episode, and because he's like, you should call it Miz, Maurice, and Morrison. He's like, no, that's stupid. He's like, well, I want to be on your show. And he's like, well, you are on this show. And then he congratulates them and says, oh, excuse me. And then Miz and Morrison, they say that they are the most giving superstars of all time because they made Bad Bunny look like $1 million. So then Damian Priest interrupts and he says that Bad Bunny doesn't owe Miz and Morrison anything. He's like, Bad Bunny shocked the world because he trained day in and day out to live out his dream. Priest says Miz said he didn't belong. And, now he's like, well, pretty much he was like, oh, now you're trying to play face because you said he didn't belong. Now you're trying to say that it was you who put him over. He's like, I'm not even going to take credit for that. And I'm his tag partner. He's like, remember, the headline reads, Bad Bunny beats The Miz. So Miz pretends to laugh it off. And he says, at least his name is in the headline. Mrs. Priest was only on WrestleMania because of his friends, and he was upstaged by a singer. Miz says that he had lots of WrestleMania moments, including beating John Cena in the main event. Miz challenges Priest to a match tonight, and Morrison says that he wanted to do that. Marie says they can both do that, and they fight. And then Priest is like, you know what? I can beat you guys in a handicap match. Let's do it. So he starts walking in the ring. And when we come back from commercial break, we get this match, Damian Priest versus The Miz and Morrison in a handicap match. And, I mean, this was what you would think it was. Obviously these guys aren't wrestling gear or anything. Priest looked dominant for most of this. Maurice was out there and everything. But it's like, is this a feud? Is this a program? What's going on? Because if Priest beats these guys, it's done. If he doesn't, probably going to get a little bit of a mini feud. And let's take you through it because we're probably going to get a little mini feud from this. So Priest, he dives off the ropes onto both of the guys. Then he puts John back inside. Miz tries to grab Priest on the apron, but he gets booted off. Morrison punches Priest and climbs the ropes with him, but Damian kicks him off and follows up with a flying high knee for a near fall. Morrison then escapes Priest for a minute, but gets hit with the Reckoning. Miz runs in and tries to hit the skull-crushing finale, but Priest counters, and he wants the Reckoning, but Maurice grabs Miz's legs. Priest lets go of Miz and starts ripping off his clothes. Maurice gets on the, well, she's, ripped off her clothes, but, this ain't 1998 anymore. Maurice gets on the apron, and Priest tells her to go off, allowing the Miz to roll him up in his underwear for the win. Maurice was kind of holding his legs and stuff, So there they go. They got the cheating win. So we'll just have to wait and see what goes on here. If, maybe we're going to see Priest versus these guys in singles matches and he beats them, moves on to something different. To me, Damian Priest is Sheamus is the next goal. That is the path for this guy. That Sheamus have a little bit of a run, and then eventually you can do this guy, Damian Priest versus Sheamus for the United States Championship. That just makes the most sense to me. Hopefully that's the path they follow. Then backstage, we see Kevin Patrick again busy tonight. He asks about what happened with Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. Now he gets mad, and she's like, we just saw this 20 minutes ago. Why do you have to replay it? And she's like, you're just doing it to embarrass me. But she says that Rose and Brooke attacked her to deflect from their WrestleMania blunder. Well, it's a mission accomplished because after they destroy them, nobody will be talking about them. And this match is up next. So Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler versus Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. This was all right. I don't know if what this is setting up. Like Juan and I said, we were really pulling for Natalya and Tamina to win the belts. And we thought maybe there'll be a new tag team, something, like what is the plan here? And I feel they still don't know what the plan here because the Raw tag team, or excuse me, I don't know why I say Raw, the women's tag team champions are always booked like this. where they lose matches, or, you know, they win in a bullshit way, or it's like they look kind of weak. But then when it comes to pay-per-views, they always win. And we're always like, oh, they're going to lose here. Oh, okay. You know, let's get something different for these tag belts. Nope, because they win. And this match, you know, kind of a weird ending to it. Mandy, she wants her finisher, but Baszler counters with a gear Fuda clutch. Rose grabs the ropes, and then Shayna throws her from the ring and tags in Nia. Nia goes out and intimidates Rose and Jax on the floor. Then she throws her back in the ring. Jax goes to get in the ring, but she slips and falls off. So they laugh at her. It's kind of like the my whole thing. And also because she fell, you know, kind of like how Mandy did. Wasn't on the ramp or anything. She fell off the apron. And then, you know, they start, like I said, they're laughing at her. Rose laughs. Nia loses it. She then slides inside, but Rose rolls back out. Rolls and Dana then walk up the ramp, and they're like, you know what? It's not worth getting our ass kicked. So they lose in a count out. Again, really weird. I don't understand the point of this, what this was, but hey, you know, that's the Raw women's division. That's the SmackDown women's division. That's WWE's women's division. A lot of it just doesn't make sense. So then we see highlights of night one WrestleMania opening match. Bobby Lashley defeating Drew McIntyre to retain the WWE Championship. So then MVP is in the ring by himself. MVP says Bobby Lashley will be joining him shortly. He says that on Saturday, Lashley retained over Drew McIntyre, and all he wanted to do today was celebrate his victory. However, he felt so disrespected that he had to set things straight. MVP says McIntyre is an absolute warrior, fearsome, one of the very best there is. However, he took his eye off the prize for a split second, and Lashley beat him. And it's okay to be number two to Bobby Lashley. MVP asks how Drew feels today, and he says he can barely move. So if Drew can't handle the hurt lock, then who can? Absolutely no one. So then Drew's music hits. He comes out. MVP stands on the stage, and Drew says MVP doesn't know how he feels, and MVP says he should feel humbled. Drew says he knew WrestleMania was going to come down to the Hurt Lock and the Claymore, and who made the first mistake. Well, he's man enough to admit that he made the first mistake by allowing MVP to distract him, and when Lashley applies the Hurt Lock, there's not much anyone can do. He passed out at WrestleMania. McIntyre says he hopes MVP keeps Lashley's ego going, keeps him in the fancy suits because he wants his head as big as possible. He wants Lashley on the biggest pedestal possible, so when he eventually gets his rematch and he hits the Claymore, Lashley will fall off. He'll hit the ground hard. Good promo by Drew, MVP. You know, these guys are great. MVP says nothing is given, everything is earned. But out comes Braun Strowman. MVP asks Braun why he's out here, and Braun says McIntyre lost. He needs to get his ass to the back of the line. Strowman says he annihilated Shane McMahon at WrestleMania, and he goes to the front of the line. Randy Orton then comes out, and he says he's done with The Fiend and Alexa Bliss, which means no more mind games, and he can focus on being the Apex Predator and the WWE Champion. Adam Pearce comes out, and he says he sees where this is going, and this makes his job so much easier to figure out a number one contender for Lashley at Backlash. So it'll be Roman Reigns. Whoo! Yeah, I'm so used to that storyline on SmackDown. It'll be Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre versus Braun Strowman, and the winner faces Bobby Lashley at Backlash. So, and he called it WrestleMania Backlash. So I don't know if that's going to be the actual name for it, or just it was just a fancy way to say it because it was setting up for Drew and Lashley again. But if the name of the pay-per-view is actually WrestleMania Backlash, then, you know, hopefully it's a pay-per-view that always will follow WrestleMania. It'll be like a given. Okay, well, we know the pay-per-view after WrestleMania will be WrestleMania Backlash. I don't really care for the name, but if you're going to do it, at least be consistent with it. You know, be like rope break, be consistent. So then we go to commercial break, and we come back. Drew and Braun Strowman are backstage, and Drew tries to intimidate him. Drew tells Braun that tonight isn't a one-on-one cage match with a non-wrestler. It's a triple threat where he could get caught with an RKO or a Claymore at any time. Braun says Drew is acting like he doesn't know what a triple threat is. Well, he had better not be insulting his intelligence because that didn't work out well for the last guy. Strowman tells Drew that he's a monster-sized ass kicking coming his way later tonight. So then we see Elias and Jackson Riker. They're in the ring playing some guitar. Elias says he wants everyone to give Shane McMahon some respect for his valiant effort. Blah, blah, blah. They keep going on. The New Day come out. I'm just going to breeze through. I'm just going to paraphrase this because I hate the New Day so much. I can't stand their cringiness. They come out. They're just making fun of Elias and Jackson Riker. They're pretty much saying, you know, oh, you guys got your ass kicked by one man. which is just completely just ignorant because they got their ass kicked by one man in Omos, which Jackson Riker and Elias bring up. The New Day pretty much just, they're like, oh, that's, they just like blow off that comment. They do a DMX quote like Kofi Kingston is any kind of intimidating like DMX. And, this eventually leads to a match. This match went on way too long for me. I actually was hoping the heels were going to win, give me something interesting. But of course, no, that's not what we see. Kingston hits a boom drop. Then he looks for the trouble in paradise. Riker jumps on the apron. Kofi hits him. Woods takes out Riker with a drop kick through the ropes. Kofi gets hit by Elias. Kofi tags in Woods, and they hit the backbreaker double stomp for the win. New Day wins. I don't give a shit. So then Randy Orton is backstage, and he says that he's been distracted for the past 6 months. That all ended at WrestleMania, and now he can focus on focus on winning the WWE Championship. However, he needs to go through Drew McIntyre and Braun Strowman. But to do that is what it is, and he's going to the top of the mountain because he has with him the 3 most dangerous letters, blah, blah, blah. We heard it. Very scripted promo. He didn't. I wish he would have talked more about the Fiend and this kind of stuff. It's just like, oh, yeah, I was distracted for 6 months. Now I'm back. It was just, I feel like this was abruptly ended, maybe because Vince didn't really like, how the matches were going and everything. So they just ended this feud. I don't know. This whole Fiend thing still seems a mess to me. So then we come back from commercial break and we see the Firefly Funhouse. Now we're going to hear what Bray has to say. And it's been 3 months since we had one of these segments. So all the puppets, they're there. They're excited. Bray comes in. They're all cheering and smiles and laughs. And he says that it feels great to be back, especially when, he's like, I'm here with my true friends. Again, a shot at Alexa Bliss. And Abby calls Alexa. She calls her a bitch and everything. They bleep the sound. He's like, oh, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. She's like, fuck that. They bleep that, So, I mean, Abby's great. And then Wyatt says that no matter what happened lately, they'll always have each other. He feels great, and this is going to be a new start. He feels reborn, and he pretends to be a healer to all the puppets, very just like Southern church, like, oh, I feel, that like the power and I feel the Lord in me, all this stuff. And, it's very just kind of gives you that vibes. Like I said, he feels reborn, everything. Wyatt promises that he shall return, and he's not chasing clout this time. So I don't know when he says he shall return. Is this again the Fiend? Is this just Bray Wyatt? Is this, we'll have to wait and see what this is. But no, reference to really going into Alexa, like cutting a promo on her or like, oh, Sister Abigail, nothing like that. So we don't really know. We'll just have to wait and see. Didn't really get the answers we wanted from the Fiend Alexa storyline tonight, but I think it's something moving forward. Again, I would say, when he lost to Goldberg, lost to Roman, and now here, the Fiend character for me is hanging on by a thread. So, are they going to save it, or is the thread going to get cut? So then Drew McIntyre makes his entrance, followed by Braun Strowman. The main event is up next. Randy Orton comes out. All these guys are in the ring. Triple threat match. No DQ. So, of course, maybe some toys were going to get involved. Some, just rough business on the outside. And that's exactly what we got. But, this match was pretty good. Strowman looked dominant. Randy Orton and Drew, they were referencing, their old feud. These guys going at each other again, all this stuff. So this match was pretty good. I can't complain about this. It obviously was triple threat, like I said. So Strowman using the steel steps, knocking out Drew, knocking out Randy, all this stuff. So we'll skip ahead here to the end. Strowman tosses Orton inside and takes a break to smash Drew with the steel steps, like I had mentioned. Strowman then drags Orton under the bottom rope and clubs his chest. Braun grabs the steel steps again as Orton comes out to the ring. He hits them both with the steel steps. He hits Orton. He also hits Drew again. And then Braun slowly gets on the apron. Orton hits him with the draping DDT. Orton drops to his knees, and he catches Strowman with the RKO. But Drew breaks it up with Drew pretty much hits the Claymore kick on Randy Orton, and then he pins Orton. Like when Orton is covering him, 1-2, you see Drew come in with a low Claymore kick. Then he covers Randy Orton as Braun sells the effects of the RKO. 1, 2, 3. Drew McIntyre is the winner of the triple threat, and it is official. Drew will face Bobby Lashley at Backlash. So then the Hurt Business music hits, but MVP comes out alone. Drew stares at MVP when all of a sudden T-Bar and Mace, they grab Drew from behind. They choke slam him. T-Bar and Mace leave the ring. They stare at Drew from the ramp as the show goes off the air. So this was, the new show for Monday Night Raw, the Raw after Mania. No real big return. Eric and Ivar, okay, cool. I have nothing against them, but there's no Becky Lynch. You needed more returns. Like I said, a tag team with Matt Riddle and RVD. If RVD chooses to wrestle again, you got to give us something new, something exciting like that. But we really didn't get it, at least tonight. Who knows what SmackDown will hold? Maybe Samoa Joe. That's what my fingers are crossed for. Head of the table, Samoan versus the Samoan submission machine. Let's see it. We all want to see it. But, talking about Monday Night Raw, I do like the addition of T-Bar and Mace to the Hurt Business. Take the masks off. Let these guys wear suits. Let them look legit. And, I feel like this will be good because it's MVP and all big guys. T-Bar and Mace are huge. Bobby Lashley's a, huge guy. But the only problem I have with this is you're booking another rematch. I don't see them having Drew lose again unless they're really going to drag this program out and he somehow stays in the title picture to SummerSlam, Money in the Bank, something like that. I don't really know. It's tough to say, but I feel like Lashley's going to lose. I would have rather seen Strowman win here in a bullshit way or, something is triple threat, whatever. Strowman wins. That would be a first defense for, or not the first defense, but another defense for Bobby Lashley at, a pay-per-view. Okay, get this guy some pay-per-view wins. Let him have a pretty legit run as champ. He can drop it to Drew at SummerSlam. You'll have crowd at SummerSlam. They can be cheering for Drew and all this stuff, but I feel it's just a forced agenda to have Drew like for the title in like every pay-per-view. It's like, if he doesn't win it, he doesn't have to go back to the back of the line. It doesn't have to take him 6 months to get there. But, hey, let Bobby Lashley have his moment in the sun for a little bit because it'll probably be the last time. But this was Monday Night Raw. Like I said, not a bad show, but definitely not a good show. It was kind of just normal Raw, just right down the middle, gave us some good stuff, some bad stuff. But we deal with it and we cover it all for you, family. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media, Rope Break on Facebook, the OG Rope Break on Twitter, Original Rope Break on Instagram, and of course, right here on YouTube, the home of the #1 podcast in the YouTube wrestling community, the Original Rope Break. So family, with the new schedule, we will see you tomorrow night, 10 o'clock on the dot, or close to it if there's no overrun with NXT.